format.
Yep. Good afternoon, everyone.
Afternoon.
And Trustee Martin is right. The sun is out. It's a good thing. Okay. So I'm going to provide you with an update from the February 18th report that's in your packet compared to the February 25th weekly report, which was this past Friday. So total credit enrollment includes full and part-time matriculated and non-matriculated students, as well as Gemini, is down 7.7%, which is an improvement over February 18th, which was down 8.7% in headcount. Overall enrollment, that also includes non-credit state aidable, is down 10.7% in comparison to February 18th, where we were down 12%. Now, part of this is due to two things. I highlighted in my enrollment update in your packet that the New York State Education Department is no longer permitting online delivery of the high school equivalency HSC program. And this is having a direct impact on non-credit state aidable enrollment, as you can see. That is down 66.5% as of February 25th, which is truly unfortunate. Clearly, there was a need or a demand for the online HSC program, but unfortunately, the State Ed Department is no longer permitting that. The other factor is Gemini enrollment is down as of February 25th, 15.3%, which is an improvement from the 18th of February, where overall Gemini enrollment was down 22.7%. That is due to the registration cycle. I had reached out to Fred Fink and asked him for some additional information as to why Gemini enrollment was down, in my opinion, significantly in comparison to the same time period last spring. He indicated that in the spring of 21, our registration window was February 2nd to February 25th, with the high school winter break occurring February 15th through the 19th. This year, the registration window is February 2nd to March 1st, and the high school winter break was last week. He said the late break, combined with some schools experiencing a delay in final exams due to students and staff being in quarantine, is shifting Gemini registrations later this year. And he said, we currently have 150 new registrations to process as of yesterday, and as well as some additional students that concurrent enrollment is verifying through FormStack. So basically this year, due to the February break being later and COVID delays, registrations are running later. So the April enrollment report will represent close to final numbers for Gemini. So I remain positive that we're going to continue to see an improvement in that decrease. So I'll ask if there's any questions.
Any questions for Dr. Urbatus? No. Thank you, Dr. Urbatus.
You're welcome.
Move to the student success update. Dr. Kaiser.
Good evening, everyone. I am going to show my screen. Can everyone see my screen and the PowerPoint presentation?
Yes, if it's possible to put it into, yeah, there you go.
Thanks, great. And I'm trying to lean into our technology, so I think you could see my icon below. Good stuff. All right, at last month's meeting, I provided an academic standings update, and I gave you a teaser about our chat bot, our artificial intelligence, basically text messaging system that simulates a personalized communication between students. And I'm really excited to give you more information around that. I want to start with this by saying, thank you to everyone who really made this happen and happen quickly. Sarah Whiffen, who saw the sort of the value in this work, and then Jenny Ertl, who helped implement it, and everybody who got removed barriers very quickly to make this happen. Deborah Ortloff, John Taylor, among the entire staff. Dr. Nye likes to say there's an 80-20% rule, and it's sometimes we spend 80% planning and 20% doing, and he likes to flip that, 80% doing, 20% planning. This is a really good example of where we did that, because we had this idea in mid-November and we're able to implement this in full scale on January 17th. So what I'm showing you here is the high-level dashboard of what we're talking about. We have an engagement dashboard, well, an opt-in rate of 97%, how many students are opting in, an engagement dashboard, and then here, how many text messages or responses we've received. So basically what we're saying, we've sent this automated text message that simulates a conversation to well over 1,000 students, and 52% of our students have responded in some way. And that equals, as of the date of this, 2/21, this snapshot, we have 3,700 text messages have been received, which reflects engagement. If I move to the bottom graph, on January 17th is when we initiated this. We had a reminder, we had a check-in on the 31st, around the first week of class. And then on February 14th, we had another check-in around students' financial aid, how they were feeling about financial aid. And that gets to our sort of idea that there's two campaigns here. One is a check-in. That's what I just showed you. And we're asking students to respond in some way. They should take action. And what I showed you were the first three bullet points: the preterm introduction, the temperature check the first week, and then the financial aid check on week 4. We also have reminders. There's no action needed by students. This AI, this text message, just sends a message out to all students, reminding them of something such as our student involvement fair. We started out very high with a 99% opt-in rate. Students along the way could always opt out. We're at 97% at this point. And this is very, very, we're still above our peers. And this type of opt-in, opt-out is very along the lines of what other institutions experience as well. So this is an example of what we're talking about. Over here on this column, this check-in, this is quite literally what a student receives. Hey, so this was the first message about checking in the first week. We want to find out how you're feeling about the start of spring semester. And let's suppose a student chooses 3, I'm feeling overwhelmed. It responds with something to the effect of, sorry to hear that. What areas are you feeling overwhelmed about? The person might say social engagement, 3. And then here, this is what the chatbot responds with. I'm sorry to hear this, and engages the student in conversations and directs the student to the right resource depending on their response. Based on this, so we've had 2 reminders or check-ins, 2 check-ins. We've identified 86 students who said they were suffering from an overwhelming financial distress in February. And on that first check-in, that first week, we had 13 students who were feeling overwhelmed about the start of spring semester. So not only does the chatbot allow us to direct our students to the right resources, but then it creates a report for us. Let me get back to that. It creates a report for us then that we could follow up on. So in this case, we're able to identify students who are high at risk and reach out to those specific students. And we are making sure, so it's a double tier support. One tier of support is automated through the chatbot, but the other one is this personal response where we are looking at the students who are most at risk, figuring out who is the best person or unit across campus to respond to them, and proactively reaching out to them. We, at this point in time, 70% of our students, this is aggregate level, 70% of our students are at low risk, 23.4% are at medium risk, and 6.5% are at high risk of dropping out. We could then drill down into this information so to find out much more specific. So we have at least 15 flags that we could tag, or 15 tags that we could identify students in different categories. And then depending on their responses, we identify low, medium, or high risk. So we could run a report about this. So we might say, what are the most high risk student athletes? And so we have tagged the students as an athlete. We're looking at their high risk. And then we send that to Sam Boccaccino, our director of athletics, for reaching out. We could do the same thing for students residing in the suites. And it allows us to dig down, drill down, so that we could see individual students in terms of what are the drivers of what puts them at risk or not at risk. I'm sorry, I'm trying to advance the slide.
You're muted, Jonathan.
Am I still muted?
No, you're good now.
Oh, sorry about that. We have 58 students who are identified as high risk and 206 students identified as medium risk. We're still learning the best way to operate with this now really robust set of information. So we are trying to figure out how to, the right reporting standards, the timing, so that we could send these reports out to the different academic units, like the examples I provided. And the one success story, we found a student who was feeling overwhelmed, responded to the chatbot. He was a student athlete. He has to attend in-person classes and practices every week. He responded that he has a long drive, an hour every day, back and forth. And we were able to verify this information with Sam, our director of athletics. We were able to connect the student to an emergency loan. And now the student has an emergency loan. He was most worried about his tires on his car. He was feeling unsafe. And now he's in a position to get new tires on his car through our emergency loan situation, or our emergency loan foundation. I think what this is showing is it's a really good example of how we're leveraging high tech to deliver personalized experiences for students. And I'll stop with questions. Thank you.
Jonathan, well, let me just one quick question then. How do you keep this fresh so it doesn't become tired for the students? They getting the same kind of prompts all the time?
You know, it's a great question. I'm not sure. Again, we are learning as we're going with this. So I think it's fresh in the terms of every semester we update the check-ins and the reminders based on events. And to be perfectly honest, we're only in this about a month and a half. So I think we still are really, really sort of on the beginning end of that learning curve. But I am really, really hopeful about this technology solution. It's already creating a lot of buzz, both among our units, our staff who are using this service, and our students who are interacting with it.
Great, thank you. Any other questions for Dr. Kaiser?
Jonathan? George, this is Donna.
Hi, Donna. Cool.
I just wanted to follow up with that. That was my thought as well. Jonathan, was how is staff, or how are staff and faculty responding to this? Does it feel like it's an added burden? It's one more thing that they have to do, or?
You know, I am going to defer this. I gave Sam as an example twice. So Sam, if you don't mind, how do you feel it's working?
I feel it's working great. It's information that, we necessarily might not have had before, or the student athlete might not have disclosed that to us. And we were able to really kind of pivot quickly and intervene and make sure that we can send them to areas of support that we need to. And again, I think, I get the list of the student athletes, and then we make the connections from their coach to the student athlete who see them on a daily level. We can certainly intervene quickly and help them get wherever they need to go to next.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kaiser.
Thank you.
Move on. We've got a first read of the FLCC Association Agreement. Dr. Urbatus, you're back on.
Hello again. So you have in your packet the updated agreement between the association and the college. This is has not been updated since 2013. So it was time. I want to just walk you through in terms of what particular changes occurred for your information, much of which was obsolete language was eliminated, as well as changes to the structure of the association in terms of making sure the document accurately reflects what the association comprises now in terms of organizational units. I'm just going through the tracking changes. The one thing that I do want to point out is that on page 4, relative to the dining room furniture replacement costs will be split by the college. We're proposing 50% contribution and the association a 50% contribution. That split used to be 25% by the college and 75% by the association. Under Article 4, this relates to IT services, and this was updated to eliminate obsolete language. There were also title changes to accurately reflect changes within the association. For example, the Vice President of Enrollment Management and Vice President for Administration and Finance, my title was added as the Executive Director now reports to me. And then, of course, the changes relative to third-party contracts or third-party vendors with AVI for dining services and Follett for bookstore services. The actual, we also melded addendums into the body of the agreement. And the rental schedule that's part of the agreement has not changed. That reflects the addendum that was previously cast between the board and the association back in 2020, 2021. So I know it's a first read, and if you have questions now or later as you read through it, certainly feel free to reach out to me.
Any questions for Dr. Abetis of this?
I just have a couple. First of all, thank you, Carol,
Welcome.
for the update. Directors and officers liability insurance, that's highlighted. Is that new, or is it just highlighted for our benefit?
Can you tell me what page that's on?
Sure, page 7, first full paragraph.
Okay, hold on. Page 7.
So it would be Article 11. I think that's a good thing. I'm just curious if in fact that's a new element of protection that the association is undertaking.
So can you repeat the question again, Steve? I'm looking at that article. I just want to make sure I'm responding to your question
Sure.
correctly.
It's with regard to the directors and officers liability insurance. Is that a new coverage, a new insurance that in fact is now in place, or has it been there?
It has been there, but it was never, it occurred between 2013 and 2022.
Okay, all right, okay. And then my other general question is, do we have any legal counsel that does a review of this as well? And if
Yes.
so, that's already been done?
Our legal counsel is Harder, Seacrest, and Emery. And I don't believe we have had legal review of this document because we did did not believe they were substantive changes.
This is Rob. That's not quite correct. Until it gets to this location, the next step is to have the legal review from the college's side.
Okay, from the college's side. Okay, thank you, Dr. Nunn.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Very good.
One last question. Does this have to, do we have to do anything? I think it mentions accounting in it somewhere. Is there anything that has to pass through our sponsor as regards
No.
this? No.
This is the agreement between essentially the college, the Board of Trustees, and the association. And it defines the role of the association and services provided, as well as the rental agreement, the annual rental payment to the college.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'll go far because we have a resolution of appreciation to the Stephanie Carpentier. Dr. Abetis, you want to lead us in that?
I would be happy to, and I'm going to ask if Stephanie is in the meeting with us. I don't see her name listed, but she could be a call-in. No. Okay. All right. Well, Stephanie Carpentier has served as the FLCC Association Executive Director for 10 years, a little over 10 years. She has significant oversight of business operations for the FLCC Association and association housing, as well as childcare services and a liaison relationship now with third-party vendors who are providing bookstore services and dining services. She has done an exemplary job in her role as executive director. And I have to note, particularly over the past 2 years, that have presented significant challenges to childcare services and housing operations throughout the pandemic. And she has been steadfast in leading those 2 areas and supporting our students who resided in the suites at Laker Landing, as well as students, employees, and community members who utilize our childcare services. And I cannot say enough about that particular role that she played throughout the pandemic. It cannot be underestimated. Stephanie has a superior business acumen and has established a strong financial foundation for the association that has seen us through the pandemic in a very positive way. I'm not saying there were not losses, but we, in terms of our fiscal picture, the association's fiscal picture, we are in a much better situation than most auxiliary service units across the community colleges within SUNY, and our auditors have repeatedly informed us of that. Under her leadership, she refinanced the bond owners agreement that allowed us to bring association housing internally and created association housing. So we were no longer working with a third-party vendor to provide housing services. That was a very positive step in the right direction towards student success. She also was instrumental in forging RFPs and ultimately contracts with the third-party vendors, AVI and Follett, who provide our dining and bookstore services respectively. And she also has oversight of student corporation finances and has managed that well too. And last but not least, she has been a good partner with the college. And it has been a pleasure working with her. I personally have had the opportunity to work with her over the past 10 years, and I will sincerely miss her. So thank you, Stephanie. And thank you to the Board of Trustees for recognizing her as well. I appreciate
I
it.
have to second that too. That she's been great.
We look forward to addressing that resolution during the full board meeting.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Abetis. Ms. Ken, you have the wonderful, wonderful pleasure of granting or proposing some Professor Emeritus status.
Thank you, Trustee Cushman. Yes, this is probably one of the best parts of my job. I enjoy doing this. This evening, I am presenting two very well-deserving nominees for Emeritus, Mary Corial and Dave Mcguire. I believe both of them are here, and it's so nice to see them. I'll start with Mary. Mary has been, or was until her retirement, a faculty member for 20 years. She rose through the ranks in her department to become department chair before she retired. She was one of the pioneers in the nursing department to go to online education, which proved to be a tremendous asset when we faced this little thing called COVID a couple of years ago, 2 years ago. And the nursing department had not fully embraced online education, which for obvious reasons they could not. But because of Mary's experience in online teaching, she was able to lead the department in going to remote teaching in a short matter of 2 weeks. She also, during COVID, due to the nature of her degree program, had to work seamlessly with ASIN and New York State Ed to adjust all the clinical hours and sites that the students were working in order to make sure that they were still getting the education that they wanted and deserved. And thanks to Mary's leadership during this time, they certainly did. Another area under Mary's guidance was curriculum. She took the nursing department from traditional-based teaching practices and led the department through a concept-based teaching practice, where students not only learned the material, but they moved away from memorization and are able to look at the big picture and link issues, concepts, ideas, problems together in order to facilitate a stronger patient care. Another, just a small thing that Mary took on during her tenure as department chair was help to lead the vision to double the size of the nursing program. Mary spent countless hours looking at budgets and planning and helping to direct that, that goal, which we now see in progress, and hopefully we'll be bringing our new class in January of next year. So we're thrilled with that. Finally, Mary was involved in many countless committees during her time here at FLCC. My second nominee for Emeritus Distinction is Dr. David Mcguire. Professor Mcguire was also a faculty member here at FLCC for 20 years. He is a 2007 Chancellor's Award recipient. He established the annual music department convocation. He is also, or was also, fully immersed in the Spring Arts Festival, which we all know and love and enjoy every year. He created and performed and worked in many college events, particularly, of course, in musical events on campus. He participated in faculty recitals, ensembles, and many other events throughout the college. He also worked with students to bring students and faculty and community members together to enjoy and appreciate music. Finally, and most notably, Dr. Dave Mcguire created the musical score for our college's alma mater, which is something that is phenomenal and something that we all are truly proud of. In conclusion, both of these nominees represent the very best of our faculty and whose work at the college will have a lasting impact for decades to come. As a result, both Professor Corial and Professor Mcguire are truly deserving of emeritus status. Thank you.
Really outstanding. It's a shame.
Thank you, everyone.
Shame that they're emeritus. Any quick comments from either Mary or David?
Oh, all I can say is I'd like to thank the faculty and staff who took the time to nominate me for this honor. I know they're very busy people, and without them, I couldn't have done any of these things. I also want to thank the members of the Emeritus Committee for reviewing their submission and recommending me for this honor. And thank you all for considering bestowing it on me. So thank you. It's good to see all your faces, by the way.
Good to see yours. And David?
I'll echo what Mary said. Thank you, everybody, very much. It was a very fast 20 years, and I really appreciate you all taking the time. And, I appreciate this.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Ms. Kent. Ms. Palauchek, revised titles?
Yes, thank you, Trustee Cushman. It's sort of hard to follow that, but maybe I'll see next time that I ask Penny not to put a job description right after such a wonderful presentation of our emeritus nominees' accomplishments. In any case, we do have a new job description included in your packet. It's for a professional academic advisor for online learning. This position is modeled after the professional academic advisor position that already exists in our ACTS office. And this position is replacing an existing headcount in our online learning area based on the increased need to support online students. So it's not a new headcount. The position is budgeted, but it's being repurposed to provide professional academic advising for this increased online student population. Are there any questions about this job description? Okay, thank you so much.
You're muted.
You would think that we would learn not to do this after all this time of being on, and me being on these darn things all day. Again, thank you, Ms. Palachuk. Strategic thought presentation on athletic strategic plan, Ms. Bocacina.
Hello again, everyone. Let me share my screen here. Okay. So I don't have the little figure at the bottom like Jonathan did, but we can go forward. That was a great addition. So really thank you everybody for your time and for me to share a couple of our initiatives going forward. And I'll share, there's about 7 that we can look at as we go forward. But you know, certainly I could talk about everyone all night. So we're going to kind of prioritize it and talk about the first 5. But before we kind of do that, I think it's important to kind of talk about the context of how, you know, we got to this point as an athletic department. You know, it's like everybody else at this college, you know, we've gone through, you know, a difficult time with the little thing called COVID. And, you know, there's been a lot of disruptions for our season, for our student athletes, for our coaches. I know certainly I'm very thankful to everybody at the college that's given us the opportunity to still practice and compete over the last 2 years. It's certainly taken a community, and to be able to do that, we wouldn't be where we're at today without the hard work of everybody. And that goes from testing, from contact tracing, from everybody within Region 3, from all of our peer institutions, at the national office, everything like that, that found a way for our student athletes everywhere, and especially in the region, to still compete and participate in the sport they love. So I'm very grateful for that. So over the past 2 years, we've been kind of dealing with the stops and starts, right? The stops and starts of seasons, the ability to seasons to be moved, the impact that it had on our student athlete eligibility, and all of those challenges that were kind of set for us to go forward. So we've done a lot of reflection kind of in the past year. So, and it's crazy to think, you know, out of everything shut down in kind of March 13th, 2020, and a year later, on March 13th, 2021, we had our first competition here at the college again, which was weird that it happened on the same date. But nevertheless, you know, we continue to move forward. So, you know, we've certainly done a lot of reflection in terms of where we want to be headed next. And it's good to have that kind of future forward thinking. And be able to do that with our own student athletes and our coaches, aligning with our own strategic plan of the college and our core values. There's been a lot of movement at the Region 3 level in terms of sport sponsorships and other opportunities. I certainly think that the New York State region for athletics has been stronger for this experience, and I think that we're all, you know, kind of in this pivot where we want to continue to move forward, but also create the safest environment for our student athletes. So these are some of the things that we've been working on for the past academic year, leading up to you know, our current strategic plan, which the last one, you know, was outdated, and then we had COVID. So working towards, you know, where we want to go next in terms of sport sponsorships, development, our student athlete experience, you know, our facilities, things like that. So as we go through these kind of initiatives in a broad stroke, at this level, we really talk a lot about the student athlete experience, and especially at the D3 level. And, you know, as Jonathan mentioned in the chatbot presentation, you know, the overall student athlete experience is all of those things. It's their mental health, their physical health, their academic success. All of those encompass the student athlete experience. It's not just what they do on the field or what they do on the court. And how our coaches play into that is pivotal. So as we kind of look ahead and look at these programs that we've done in the past and how do we shift them into kind of a more contemporary flair to make sure that they're still being productive and they're an aid to retention. So those are some of the things with our Winning with Character program, our faculty fellows. The SAB is our Student Athlete Advisory Board, providing leadership opportunities for our student athletes. How do we enhance those overall experiences, and how do we become more interconnected on campus? And I know it's been difficult, overall in the past couple years, with the environment that we're in. And strengthening those mechanisms will only help our department as well as student retention overall, and the success of our program. Another thing that's on the horizon for us is the expansion of esports. So currently right now we have 61 student athletes in the esports program. And the esports program is certainly very unique to Finger Lakes. I was here when we had 2 students at the beginning. And it's a program that has maintained its growth throughout the pandemic because it has the ability to be able to, be played and practiced remotely in a remote setting. And it certainly has expanded, to a point where are we creating the best experience for those student athletes because of how big the program is? All good opportunities. It also creates an extension to a certain part of our student body that it's not necessarily like any of our other traditional student athletes. So it's connecting all of our facets of our student body. And it's something that, we're certainly proud of its growth, and special kudos to Michael Van Etten and Will McLaughlin and Chad Kofel for making sure that program has remained stable. And then also going forward, the expansion of our emerging sports. So we were recently the recipient of an NJCAA Foundation grant for men's volleyball. We have seen that program really take off. Currently, we have 7 men's volleyball student athletes signed to a national letter of intent for next year. And it's really, it's nice to also see in terms of esports and all of our sports merging together, because we recently just signed a student athlete that was 6'8", and he was a men's volleyball player, and he's also an esporter. And it's nice to see the 2 realms of sports come together to create recruitment opportunities for our student athletes. The next kind of initiative, I can't talk, I can't say enough good things about our coaches. Certainly pivotal to any athletic department is our coaching retention, and how they're included on a college campus. And then sometimes that's difficult for our coaches because they all are part-time. They come to campus at different hours. They come to campus on the weekends and the evenings, and their ability to, be ambassadors of the college as well as do all of those other things off the court or off the field is pivotal, really pivotal to our success. So, I always kind of say, coaches kind of have 3 jobs at this level, to recruit student athletes here, to help keep them here, and then to help them get wherever else they want to go after here. And that's unique to the community college experience because, especially at the 4-year level where it's kind of, the end goal, they play multiple hats, and they are very vital to our success. And if we don't have our coaches, we don't have our student athletes. If we don't have our student athletes, we don't have our department. So in terms of our coaching retention and their interconnectedness on campus, that's always an initiative, and making sure that they're connected with everybody else so that they maintain at the college, and also making sure of their individual program needs. Certainly, we have a beautiful turf facility that we'll talk about here in a minute, but there are other programs that have, significant needs in terms of recruitment to their program. One of them is track and field. One of the other ones is esports. So making sure that our coaches have the tools for success and be able to recruit and retain our student athletes. A lot of work over the past year that has been done with our admissions and our athletic staffs, which I'm happy to build that connection, which is great. So overall, for initiative going forward is to continue those efforts. And admissions and athletics has been working over the past year to kind of integrate our technologies. In terms of our student athlete, a prospective student athlete that wants more information for athletics on our athletic website is now being communicated to admissions. And it gives us the ability to be more interconnected and work together. And it also builds those relationships between our admissions counselors and our coaches. And another event that we had this past fall, we had our first athletics and admissions showcase, which of course, typical kind of COVID year it was rainy. It was about 40 degrees. It rained all day, but we made it out on the end, and it was still a very well attended event. And we're looking forward to doing more of those things going forward. And also the ability when we kind of cross technologies is to make sure that the tools are available for our coaches to continue their recruiting as well. So as mentioned, going forward, another one of our initiatives, develop a management plan for our athletic facilities. We have a beautiful turf field. It's getting a lot of attention. There's a lot of community members that will want to rent that. So how we maintain it, how we manage it is all future forward thinking. It certainly is an aid to recruitment, and it certainly will continue to be the more and more we spread the word and market it. Then the last one that I'll mention briefly is just the connection that we have with our alumni. And I think there's a lot of opportunity as we go forward to strengthen that connection. I certainly know that the alumni want to be engaged. It's especially they're hungry to be engaged after certainly not being able to kind of do the things that they were used to be doing over the past 2 years. And we certainly would like to have more events like the men's lacrosse alumni event in 2019. We had over 40 men's lacrosse players back to campus, and it's certainly an opportunity and also a potential revenue stream to generate relationships and be able to have our alumni think philanthropically about connecting to the campus. So just in kind of this reflection period, we've done some analysis, and I think these are not, these are not just at FLCC. I would say these are kind of region wide. I would say coaching retention is always something that we're working towards improving. How can we, again, it goes back to how can we make them more inclusive on campus? How do we utilize our department staff better? Are there ways to, especially on the student support side, be able to have those and fulfill those initiatives without taxing our staff? We're always looking at the student athlete support and experience. That's our overall goal. And how do we handle kind of external and internal requests for our stakeholders for their facilities, for our community involvement and things like that. So overall, just kind of a strengths and opportunities. Like I mentioned before, our coaches are at the core, our people are at the core of all of our strengths, recruitment and retention, athletic facilities, support programs, and Region 3. I think our region as a whole, like I mentioned, has become stronger, as a result of COVID. It's competitive. We have a vast number of teams that compete in all sports. So I think that's definitely a strength. And then the two opportunities that I kind of want to highlight quickly that are part of overall big initiatives are diversity, equity, inclusion efforts within the athletic department. I know that Sim Covington presented the DEI plan. One of our goals is to make sure that our own athletic department aligns with the overall college DEI plan and therefore take that to our region as well. And also how we enhance our experience, not only for our student athletes, but our prospective students, our spectators, everything like that, as we go forward with our overall game day experience. And that revolves a lot around our sports information director and maintaining our website so that, it's applicable to our prospective student athletes, any other college coaches, any other outside community members that would look on it and make sure that we're promoting our accomplishments for our student athletes in our department as well. So overall, these are some just, again, broad stroke initiatives that, we are going to continue to make sure that we, pay attention to and promote going forward. And I think that, again, it's just nice to be able to think forward, after being able to pivot in so many different directions over the past couple of years. So I really appreciate everybody's time. I kind of flew through that. But I will open it up for any questions.
Any
Yes,
questions?
if I could, Trustee Cushman. Samantha, thank you, first of all, for the presentation. And I may have missed this, but the sportswomanship and the sportsmanship that certainly your teams have drawn attention to in the accolades is also not to be lost and highlighted and really accentuated, not only recently, but over the many years and decades. And it's one that certainly makes it to the outside world and to the press. And even before our time as trustees here, it's something that has a really wonderful tradition in FLCC. And I know that's one that you continue today. So congratulations for for modeling that, and to those that have been recognized. My question was regard to the Woodsman program, and if I missed that, I apologize. Does that fall within athletics? Is it a club? I mean, how does that fit within the scheme of what you oversee?
Yes, absolutely. So it falls within athletics, and I believe, yeah, Sophie's on here, who's a member of our logging sports team. Yeah, it falls in athletics. It doesn't fall within the jurisdiction of the NJCAA, but they compete against other four-year colleges as well. So they have actually 3 meets this spring. They play both semesters. They compete both semesters, but they are under us as well.
And it's now called logging?
Yep. Yep.
Great. And Sophie, maybe take yourself off mute and give us a perspective as a team member.
Yeah, so can everyone hear me?
Yes.
So I joined logging sports in the fall while I was in nursing school, and it was a lot on top of nursing school, but the coaches were super sweet. They said I could only come to one practice if I could, and I was still able to go to all the events, the meets and everything. And then this semester I've like carved out more time in my schedule to be able to go to practices. And it's really fun. It's a really good experience, and we've done a lot of recruiting this semester, so we've probably like at least doubled our team size. So that's been really exciting. So
That's great. Who are some of the other schools that you compete with? Samantha mentioned 4-year institution. Who are some of the other
yeah.
colleges?
So last semester we did 3 meets. We did, I think it was 3. We went to Paul Smith's, which is up in the Adirondacks. We did an overnight there, and then Morrisville was the other one. That was just a day trip. And then we had a home meet here.
That's great. Well, thanks, Sophie. And Samantha, thanks for your presentation. That's all I have, Trustee Cushman.
Thank you, Chairman Martin. Trustee Mahaley?
Thank you, George, and thank you very much, Samantha. I guess it's a question, but perhaps it's more of a comment. I am going to assume that based on some of the things that you mentioned, that you will be working also with the advancement office. You obviously plans in here for scholarships, but also I could see when you're talking about improving track and field, that there are businesses that probably would be interested in partnering. So I was just wondering if you had any plans that you could share with us about that end.
I think there's definitely a lot of room for opportunity, and I think the benefit that we have is, I don't necessarily think you need a huge expansion. We have the land already, and I think that can be utilized as just a particular area for our track and field. So it might not be, it's not a whole track and field, but it's an area that they can, do some of their different individual sports that's currently a grass field. So, and that's not necessarily a huge project, but it's nice to be able to have the land to do that and the opportunities there to give them a set place to be able to practice. Right now, they utilize the track at Canandaigua and Marcus Whitman, so they're the only team that's currently off campus to practice.
Any other questions for Ms. Boccaccino? Thank you very much for your presentation. Great. We haven't had one of those in quite a while. I appreciate it. Moving on, our second strategic thought presentation, Dr. Kaiser, Cannabis Program Development.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Again, I know we are running out of time, so I'm going to try to go through this presentation as quickly as possible. Bernard Tunchek will also be providing some presentation when we are talking about our horticulture timeline. So let's move right into it. There we go. All right, what I wanted to present on here is not just about the strategy for our cannabis program, but the template for innovating and developing programs, new programs. So at the heart of it, we have the example here is cannabis, but this could be used for blockchain technology, cybersecurity, what have you, but innovative new programs. It starts with a workshop series. The idea of this workshop series is to build awareness and establish FLCC as a leader in this area. That leads into workforce training programs. These are non-credit programs that are short-term, anywhere from a few weeks to a few months. We are in the process of developing these non-credit programs, training programs. We've been in contact with the Dean of Urban Agriculture at Olive Harvey College in developing similar programs. And we have a workshop series or a symposium where we're bringing industry experts across the cannabis or hemp industry here on campus on Saturday, March 26th. And we'll be leveraging those connections to figure out what workshop training programs will be most beneficial. This leads into a cannabis certificate. This cannabis certificate is a 24 credit cannabis certificate. We currently have a 3-course or 9 credit track within our horticulture program. We're looking to expand that based on the needs of this emerging industry. And we'd like to position that into a new type of degree that is an AOS or an Associates of Occupational Studies. And I'll talk more about each of these. Oh, jeez. I apologize. My screen is not expanding, but here we go. At this point, I want to give the floor over to Berna. But before I do, I want to say that the backbone, what made this cannabis program possible, is a very strong and mature horticulture program. And I want to emphasize that the horticulture program is the core. It's a backbone to this program and many others that we might see grow out of this. For instance, we might see an insurgence of growing hops for craft beers. We would need a strong horticulture program to do that, or organic farming or mushrooms. They're all sort of trending right now, but the core for that is always about growing, and that is the essence of our horticulture program. So Berna, take it away.
Berna, you're on mute.
Darn it. And I don't know if I can ever get those words back again, right? I've been at the college just for about 20 years now, and I had a 20-year career before that. And then before that, I was a graduate of the horticulture program. So I feel like I have a lot invested here. Anyway, trustees approved the certificate in ornamental horticulture, and that was in 1973, which is kind of a shift from what we do now. Of course, now oftentimes we'll have an AAS program or maybe an AA program, and then we have a certificate off of that. Back then in the 70s, 50 years ago, it was a certificate first to kind of test the waters, right? And so then moving on to 74, the college actually hired the first 2 horticulture faculty, Drs. Ed Moberg and Dr. Dan Marion, to then really develop a horticulture program, as it were. Also I have to throw in that with some community engagement as well was Sonnenberg Gardens here in Canandaigua, where Ed Moberg taught classes, these 4 horticulture classes, and really developed a bond with Sonnenberg that continues today. We use Sonnenberg as a classroom as far as the grounds go. So I wanted to throw that in as far as the fall of 1974 went. And then moving to 1977 is when the trustees approved a degree program, an Associate of Applied Science in Ornamental Horticulture. So that was a 2-year degree that where people could come, either they were in the certificate already and then expanded and went to the 2-year program. Be it as it may, also with that degree program came the building of our FLCC greenhouse that's still on campus today, same greenhouse. And then moving on to the spring of 79, that's when that building was actually completed. The greenhouse was actually completed 2 years after the trustees had approved its construction. And classes actually started using that greenhouse. I was a work study student in that greenhouse, so very interesting to be working in there now, excuse me, as the greenhouse manager and having classes in that greenhouse. So then we move along to a name change of that ornamental horticulture turning into a horticulture program. So coming from landscape management, construction, design, and going to a more generalized name of horticulture. We also had to reduce, you may recall, reduce credit hours and brought it down from 67 to 64 credits in this horticulture program. That was in 2014. Our numbers have been good. You know, they've been solid through the years, going up and down a little bit, especially with demographics. And I'll throw in here that many of the students that are in our program are adult students. They're students that have had a career and they've then left their career and gone to what their passion is, which oftentimes is gardening, right? So now we move to the fall of 2019, a year and a half ago, and we created this Cannabis Track, a 3-class track. And I think that Jonathan will show you the numbers as far as the interest in cannabis and growing cannabis. That, as again, Jonathan pointed out, horticulture is the backbone of that. Plant science is the backbone of it. And we're learning that the industry, the cannabis industry, is looking for people that know plant science as one facet of cannabis is. So I'll give it back to you, Jonathan.
Berna, thank you so much. And it's really been a pleasure to share the screen with Berna. Berna has recently received the SUNY's Chancellor Award for Professional Service and will be retiring in August after a very long and successful career here. And much of the success that we see is based on the work of Berna helping to maintain the greenhouse and being really innovative in how we could develop this 3-course Cannabis Track. So thank you, Berna.
Yes, you're welcome. Thank you, Jonathan.
So let's see. I'm having a hard time advancing my slides. Here we go. So this is what Berna's been talking about. The main purpose of this slide, I know that we're behind time, so I'm going to sort of go through these rather quickly. But the main point of this is for us to see that the horticulture program has experienced very stable enrollment over the past 20 years. So this is going back to 2002 and 2003. The blue are fall semester enrollment numbers. The orange are spring semester enrollment numbers. And you could see rather stable over 20 years. Important dates are over on the left-hand side, but I think we did a very good job of anticipating the great need to have this cannabis track within the horticulture program. And we could see that by this huge growth in our enrollment in the cannabis program. I want to add at this point too that this growth of enrollment has had no investment at this point in either staff or any sort of resources in terms of equipment or greenhouse, where we've just been able to establish this with, maintain this enrollment growth with existing resources. I am having the hardest time advancing slides. All right, here we go. This slide is really designed to present really where we're going. This is our existing horticulture program with our 3 cannabis track. And this is where we want to take it. We want to develop 2 specialized sort of tracks within this that could lead to a certificate program. One would be leveraging our existing courses in biotechnology and cell biomanufacturing. We could simply use our existing courses and innovate with some examples, or develop laboratory classes and techniques courses that are specific to cannabis biotechnology, molecular analyses and chemical analyses. So that's one track, biotechnology. Another track would be a business cannabis track that utilizes, again, existing courses in accounting, culinary, legal, marketing, business. We could use existing courses with some specific examples, or we could develop, depending on demand, some very specific courses such as cannabis law, cannabis culinary. The point of this slide, again, is to simply say that the existing courses really are just, right at this point, grounded in our faculty's ability to innovate. What we think, with a pretty small investment of about less than $15,000, we could develop a lot of these laboratory-based experiential learning courses that are really what students will need if they're going to enter and be successful in the cannabis industry around regulation and testing of cannabinoids in the industry. So we need some of this work. Some of the work we're doing in this, Assistant Professor Sean Canale, he is looking to develop a license so that we could use cannabis, live cannabis plants. We are looking also, one of our adjunct professors, Glenna Colpretti Hudson, is already a leader in the hemp industry, and she already has a cultivation license that she's been using for a number of years. And we're also looking to be able to leverage that license as well. She's been very generous with her time and connections and resources. But otherwise, with this relatively small investment in the license and grow tents and some industry standards, we think we could develop these 3 different tracks. We have a working group right now comprised of full-time and part-time faculty, Berna, and the department chair, John Faust, and our department chair, Jen Carney, in science and technology, to really figure out the best way to develop these courses and leverage our existing knowledge in biotechnology and in our business courses. So that really gets to the 2 different tracks that we will have that will develop certificate programs. But really, the part of this relies on a new degree that we'd like to offer. We're in contact with SUNY on developing and rolling out an Associate of Occupational Science. It's highly flexible. This is the important mark right here. The AOS degree has no liberal arts requirements, and it has only 4 general education requirements compared to other degree types. These would be an Associate of Science, or an Associate of Applied Arts, an Associate of Applied Science. So you can see a lot more flexibility. It allows us to package other certificates or other programming so students could build individualized study plans. So for instance, you might want to combine a year certificate program in cannabis with a year certificate program in Spanish or paralegal, really to customize your degree program based on your needs. And with so many degree changers in this field, we feel this is really an important aspect to go. We've benchmarked with Fulton Montgomery Community College. They are really leveraging this type of degree to leverage the demands of adult students. It's a way that we could really help support students as we try to grow our adult student market. And it very much aligns with our guided pathways efforts. What I really want to also mention is that very first part, establishing ourselves as leaders in this industry. We have Finger Lakes Cannabis Business Incubator Symposium. This will be Saturday, March 26th. We expect 200 to 300 people. It'll open up with a keynote and then have 2 concurrent sessions. It will run between 9 and 12:30. We have Senator Pam Helming will be providing some opening remarks. We have concurrent sessions that are grounded in accountants, attorneys, professionals in intellectual property, and small business leaders who have an emphasis on entrepreneurship. So we're using this to develop our industry connections, to build out our workforce training programs, to build out that cannabis certificate program, and ultimately that AOS degree that's highly flexible. Again, I want to emphasize that we're using cannabis as the template for this, but we could really use this example for, let's say, blockchain technology. And in a year from now, we could be developing workshops around blockchain technology, workforce training programs, and building towards a degree in it or around it, especially using that very flexible AOS degree. So I'm going to pause and find out if we have any questions. And I apologize, I really went through that quickly because I want to be cognizant of our time.
Thank you, Dr. Kaiser, and thank you, Berna. Any questions from the trustees?
Yes, this is Santa Abraham. I have a question for Jonathan. Jonathan, are we ahead of the game compared to other community colleges who want to bring in perhaps same program, or are there, or is this one of our competitive advantages?
I want to emphasize with like two underlines. This is a competitive advantage. SUNY sees us as a leader in this market. When the Office of Cannabis Management, OCM, which has been newly organized, they reached out to SUNY for support. SUNY contacted us first, made connections, and then they reached out. There's 2 other colleges that have horticulture programs that are developing cannabis programs. We are in line or well ahead of those programs. I suspect many colleges will be trying to enter this market. We are ahead of the game, and that's why I'm really trying to lean forward with this.
Thank you.
Other questions for Dr. Kaiser?
This is Jeff. Actually, I guess a couple of comments. One is, I'm really intrigued by the AOS degree and its potential applicability not only to this, but to other arenas as well. And the only other observation I made during the presentation, which was great, by the way, was that we constructed the greenhouse in 1979, which makes it 43 years old. So I guess the question is, what's the status, or where did we leave the discussion on a new greenhouse?
It's Rob. We're working on one, and we need to work more with our county and utilize some of the support they have. If you remember, we mentioned, I was going to talk about this in my brief. One of the areas
that's
we're
all right.
working on, but it's okay. It'll make my brief shorter. How's that? But one of the areas we're working on is the greenhouse along with the cannabis and finding donors, but also with the county. And one of the things that the county is thinking of is how do we partner with Cornell Co-op and create a facility on campus that would be a joint facility with Cornell Co-op and the county. And I think that gives incentive for the county to help pony up some funds to potentially help. But Rich, you can correct me on that.
Well, being connected to Cornell wouldn't hurt, that's for sure. So, okay, thanks very much.
And actually, that leads into a question I had, Jonathan, is this, do you see this being a transferable course to a 4-year?
The horticulture program could be transferable. AOS degrees by design are workforce programs. It's not saying that the courses or the program cannot be transferable, but they are designed to enter the workforce very quickly.
Great.
And
Donna?
as a follow-up question to that, I am making an assumption here that OAS programs are eligible for financial aid.
Absolutely. I would not be following through on this effort if they weren't financially aidable. That is really important, and yes, they are.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions for Dr. Kaiser? Hearing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And that, take a motion to adjourn.
George, this is Joan. I move that we adjourn.
Thank you, Joan. And I have a second.
I'll second. This is Donna.
Thank you, Donna. And with that, we conclude, and I pass the torch to Chairman Martin.
Thank you very much, Trustee Cushman. Another pack-filled and very interesting meeting. The activities there are certainly endless. Thanks for all the work. Trustee Jeff Astles is going to be chairing our Finance Committee and has agreed to do so. Trustee Astles, why don't you take this away?
Okay, thanks, Mr. Chairman. I'll call the meeting of the Finance and Facilities Committee to order. And as I think most of you saw in the emails prior to the meeting, one of the things that we need to do is to withdraw one of the resolutions, the one dealing with contract with Forelli for employee benefit data integration with Excelis. There's just more work to do to lead up to that, so we need to postpone it for a month. So if there's a consensus on that, we'll take that item off the agenda. And I would just note that we'll have to more formally do that when we get to the actual full board meeting. With that, we'll start by any comments or suggestions regarding the minutes from the February 2nd meeting. Okay, there being none, we'll consider those approved. Is Adam on?
No, he's not. Christine should be on taking Adam's place tonight. Adam is not.
Okay. Okay, so we have the operating budget update and the finance report. So Christine, oh, there you are. Okay. I was looking for you on the screen. I didn't see you. Go ahead.
Hi, Trustee Astles. Thank you for allowing me this opportunity to present in Adam's behalf. I'm going to share my screen.
Hey, Christine, can I say one thing? I didn't say it well enough since Adam's there. I thought he already saw him. He can't speak. So that's why Christine he's lost his voice. So we're helping him save his voice so he can sing for us somewhere down the road.
There you go. Okay. Very good.
I think we can just have him post his update in the chat and everybody can read it. Just kidding. All right, let me share my screen. So why do oh, that's what I want to do. Can everybody see my screen?
Yeah. Is it possible to make it a little larger or not?
you don't mind me getting rid of some of the titles?
There we go. That's a little better. There we go.
How's that?
Fine.
Okay, perfect. Okay, just as an overall update from the 22-23 budget perspective, we're about halfway through that process, and the finance office continues to work to complete departmental budgets, and we'll start reviewing those and having meetings with the individual departments to discuss any realignments or adjustments that need to be made with regards to 22-23 budget. With regards to the January of 22 budget, which you see in front of you, we're about 42% of the way through the year. And as noticed in previous reports, the budget is higher than that originally approved by both the Board of Trustees and SUNY. That's the result of the receipt and use of stimulus funds. You'll also notice that there is not a stimulus report provided this time separately, as there hasn't been a significant change in our expenditures or moving forward with utilizing those stimulus funds. We're on track with that part. Also, with regards to the revenues, we're at 51% of budget. The biggest change is that we've received our first installment from the sponsor, which is historically earlier than normal. We don't usually get that installment till February or March. We'll also notice that our state aid from last year at this time is we have not yet received our second quarter state aid payment. With regards to our expenditures, we continue to maintain on pace with that throughout the fiscal year. We're at roughly 40% of our expenses realized this year to date. Also, with the budget and the supplies and expenditures, we're at $17 million. Captures various federal aid lines. And as I said before, we are reviewing these lines in more detail so that we hope to provide more information and detail to you in the future. And that's similar to what Adam had reported to you last month also.
Yeah.
That is the finance update.
I just had a couple.
Sure, go ahead,
questions. With regard to the state aid, I know that Adam had reported last month that we're waiting for the final audit, and I understand that's why the state aid dollars are being held up. My question is with regard to cash flow. So we're now looking at some date in the future in order for the state dollars to be released. I'm just curious of our status with regard to cash flow, since the state aid monies are quite significant.
Certainly. I look at cash flow on at least a weekly basis, and with the receipt of the earlier sponsored contribution, that certainly helped. We're also drawing down aid for the spring semester, which is helping. So we're in a good financial cash position currently.
Okay, thank you. And then on the non-credit side, I see we went up from last year's budget a little bit this year, yet the year-to-date number is still quite light. Are we still anticipating to realize $660,000 for the fiscal year in non-credit?
That tends to be, I would expect that we, it's kind of early. I mean, we're only halfway through, so I would say that we do anticipate it. I would suggest it's higher this year because we're offering more classes and everything with that, with things lightening up a little bit with COVID.
Okay. So if you were Adam, maybe just next month could have a little more analysis around that. That would be helpful. Those are only two questions. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have any questions? Okay, if not, thanks for that report, Christine. A facilities update?
I also have the facilities update, which you will find all of the details provided in your packet. But some of the talking points are with regards to the nursing expansion. It continues to be moving on forward in good swell swoop. Item number 2 is the Flex Lab. That represents the $1.5 million that we received in a grant to cover that supplemental project. The fourth item is the Geneva server room. There were funds left over from that, and SUNY has approved for us to use those funds to update a cooling system. Also, with regards to the seventh item, the master plan, they're hoping to have those projects started during the summer session. Sorry about that. I was reading the notes on this. The spreadsheet that you have attached is for the 5-year plan for the capital projects. Those are the projects that are typically submitted in the fall, during the fall timeframe, and they're the collaborative effort between both the county and SUNY. That's the facilities update.
Okay, just a quick question relative to the 5-year capital projects. Is that something that the Board of Trustees has to approve separate and independent from the annual budget, or have we already done that, or how does that occur?
I'm not positive, Jeff, because it's not usually something this is new to me.
Okay.
Dr. Nye, do you know if the master plan or the capital projects master plan is approved by the board prior to submission to SUNY?
I can't recall if it is, but I do believe the board should be involved in the decision-making before it goes up. And so that part of this is that you all need to review this. If you would like to have a resolution that goes with it, we can do that next time. But it is important that you see it and that you're comfortable with it before it goes up. Normally, what the master plan has been about has been the basic maintenance areas, not the big projects. So that's a little bit different. We're talking about the monies that we use that also are the county does give us a nice amount of money to be able to maintain our facilities. And if you go to other campuses, you'll see that our facilities are more better maintained. However, Jeff, you brought up something I've asked Adam to look into in the future, and that's where does technology fit into this equation to see if we can get that same match, and that's being worked on.
Okay, well, if a board resolution would help with SUNY, schedule it and we'll take care of it.
It won't, but it's more whether or not you want to. The SUNY will take whatever we've taken up. I do not believe that we've had you do a formal resolution in the past, but I do believe it is important that you see it and you approve it, and that it's to your prerogative if you would like to have a resolution to go with them in the future. But we have not done so in the past.
Okay. All right, any other questions?
I do, yes, with
ahead,
regard
Steve.
to the nursing project. If we could, again, for next month, have a little more detail with regard to the phasing, with regard to the nursing project, and specifically, again, not in detail, but a bit of an overview with regard to budget, where we are in the budget cycle. Are we on budget? Are there any concerns, any change orders that have come up? Just like to have a bit of a midterm kind of update now with regard to where that's at, if we could. Thanks.
I can tell you that I did speak with Kathy Ahern this afternoon prior to making the presentation, and she did say to indicate to you that everything is moving smoothly and going in the right direction. And I will pass on to her your request for next month.
Great. Thanks very much. Appreciate that.
No problem. And I apologize for not being able to address the question about the board approval.
No, it's all right. Okay, any other questions for Christine or Adam? Okay, if not, we'll move on to resolutions. The first one is authorizing the contract renewal for debt collection services. Christine, I assume you're up on this one as well?
Yes, sir. This is an annual renewal for our contract for student debt collection. We have not utilized the service since COVID, as we held off from turning our students into collection agency, but we would ask for the resolution to be approved for renewal of that contract going forward.
Okay, are there any questions for Christine in that regard? Okay, very good. And this is Michelle is going to talk about retaining search services for JK Executive Strategies. Michelle, you want to talk about that?
Thank you, Trustee Astles. As I'm sure you all know, John Taylor will be retiring, and in conversations with President Nye, we've decided to use a search firm to identify a replacement for his position. And we did obtain quotes from various agencies, and the one that's included in your packet for approval had the lowest bid, and the rate will be billed at 28% of the successor CIO's starting annual salary. This is an industry standard method of calculating the fee for a retained search. So if there are any questions about the actual proposal that's included in your packet, we can certainly address those.
Any questions for Michelle? No, I have just one added comment, and that is, with his extensive experience, if John knows of people that he think would be worthy of replacing him, to let us know about that and make sure that those folks are included as part of the search. We might,
Absolutely.
if we have people that we can target, let's include them and go after them.
We'll definitely look everywhere that we can.
Okay. Okay, any other comments or questions? Okay, everybody in agreement on the resolution? Okay. And the contract with Forelli, as I commented earlier, has been withdrawn. And then there's the budget transfer report.
Hi, the budget transfer is me again. The
Yeah,
budget
that's fine.
The budget transfer report is pretty self-explanatory. It's just realigning funds to where we actually need them, so we're paying expenses in the appropriate categories.
Okay. Any questions regarding that? Okay, any other questions or comments in general regarding finances or facilities? All right, Christine, thanks for stepping in. Adam, thanks for being here. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I so moved, Barb Hamlin.
Okay, second?
Rich will second.
Thanks, Rich. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Steve, I'll throw it back to you.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks very much. Folks, we'll take an 11-minute break and reconvene at 6:15. See everyone at 6:15. Thanks. Okay, I see we're all coming back. Thank you, Rick. That assistance. Okay, we have everyone here, and welcome to the Wednesday, March 2nd, 2022 Board of Trustees meeting of the Finger Lakes Community College. It is 6:15 and we'll commence with the formal board meeting. As an institution of higher learning and in recognition of the world events happening right now, if you would please join me in a moment of silence and reflection in support of our allies and friends in Ukraine and all that they're experiencing during this most difficult time. Please, a moment. Thank you. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. We will call to order officially the meeting of March 2nd, 2022. And we do have a motion to amend the 21-22 meeting calendar due to a combined work session for the audit and enterprise risk management. Penny, maybe you could just elaborate a little bit on that and refresh our memories with regard to the amended approval of this year's upcoming meeting calendar.
Okay, basically, the previous calendar reflected an audit and ERM meeting, and then also a finance and audit and ERM meeting together. But there's some confusion around that, so we ended up having to redo the calendar to reflect a combined A and E and RM meeting. So it's just a matter of logistically that change.
Should we take the motion up separately here, or is that included in our consent?
That doesn't need a resolution, so it just needs an approval, a motion for approval.
So please, a motion and a second for approval of this amendment.
This is Jeff, I'll move it.
Thank you, Rich, for the motion, and thank you, Jeff, for the second. Any other questions or comments with regard to this amendment? Seeing or hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, carried. Thank you. Public and community comment. This is your opportunity for those that are visiting us in person or remotely, or by audio only. Please join us. We welcome your comments. We'd like to hear what you have to say. We are allowing up to 5 minutes for each individual comment. Please, would anyone like to share their thoughts with the Board of Trustees at this time? Anyone at all? Anyone that's on the line? Okay, thank you. Moving on to resolutions from the board that have been added to the consent agenda. We have a block here with regard to not only that, but the approval of the consent agenda and all of the resolutions on the consent agenda. So with the board's wishes, I'd like to take those in a block. Also noting we're withdrawing the Forelli contract for the employee benefit data integration with Excelis. So that gets removed. That'll be noted in the minutes. So resolutions from the board that are added, those that we're actually looking at as a consent, and the second set of consent group as well. So please, as a block, a motion and a second.
Trustee Martin, before we do the approval, can we just revisit back the resolution for Stephanie Carpentier? And could I just ask Carol to say a word? Stephanie's on the line now.
Wonderful.
So she was listening before, but this is an opportunity for you at least a dialogue, you could see her name on the screen. Carol?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Nye. Stephanie had called in during the education and planning meeting and heard my remarks. But I would like to offer her the opportunity now, if she would like to say anything to the board at this point. Hi, Steph.
Hello, everyone. I'd just like to thank you for the lovely acknowledgement of my work over the past decade and your many kind words, Carol, and the board. It has been an honor and a privilege for me to serve the college community and to collaborate with the College Board of Trustees, the association board, and the association staff. I do want to extend a special thank you to Dr. Urbatus, who has been a wonderful board chair and mentor during my entire tenure at the association. Her steadfast support has allowed the association to positively impact the student experience and for the association, as I'll use Dr. Nye's words, to achieve great things. So with gratitude for this wonderful acknowledgement, thank you all very much.
Well, thank you very much.
Served.
Yes, and the gratitude goes right back to you for all of your work, and thanks
Indeed.
for your leadership and for modeling all the good work that you have done. You represent not only yourself, but our institution so finely. So thank you on behalf of all of us. We really do appreciate it and wish you well in your next journey.
Yes, thank you so much, everyone.
Okay, thanks again. Well, that's a wonderful reason to take a pause there with regard to our consent items. So we are looking for a motion now and a second, please, for approval of these consent items, if we could.
I'll move, George.
Thank you, George. As a motion and a second, please.
I'll second. This is Jeff.
Thank you, Jeff. Any further comments or questions? Hearing or seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Wonderfully carried. Thank you all.
May I interrupt for a moment, Steve? I just want to
Please.
make sure that we're going to go over the resolutions that are specific to the board, which is the appointment of the secretary, appointment of the chair to finance, and appointment of the voting member for the Finger Lakes Association.
We are. I was going to include that underneath my chair's report, and if that's okay with you, we could do that there. Yep.
Okay.
So let's move right into that. Thanks for teeing that up, Penny. I really appreciate it. Before we get to that, is there any old business? Old meaning more than just a couple minutes, but old that any trustee would like to bring forward. Alrighty. Underneath the chair's report, as Penny has noted, with the health challenges that our fellow colleague Don Cass has been experiencing, we have a temporary appointment of secretary to the Board of Trustees, and Trustee Mihalik has generously agreed to step into that role. Thank you, Donna, for stepping up and serving in that capacity. We greatly appreciate your willingness. With regard to temporary appointment of chair to the Finance and Facilities Committee, we saw Trustee Assel's fill in the last two meetings in that regard. Thank you again, Jeff, for again standing in Don's stead with regard to this role. And finally, our voting member on the association, Trustee Hamlin, thank you for your willingness to step in and not only attend the meetings, but represent our interests as trustees as a voting member at the association. So 3 trustees filling one, certainly important shoes to fill. And thank you all for your efforts and work in identifying that. Really do appreciate it. It's appropriate for me to give, with Don's permission, an update with regard to his health challenges. He continues to move along and progress, still not quite as quickly as he would like. He did very much appreciate and receive what was a fruit basket that ultimately was sent on behalf of all trustees. And I understand he's enjoying that and he's in receipt of that. So Penny, thanks for your work in making that happen. And to the trustees, including Santa and others that made that suggestion. But he hopes to rejoin us soon. He's just not certain what that's going to be, but does appreciate your well wishes and your reach outs that each of you continue to do. So that's, with his permission, a bit of an update. That's my report at this point. President Nye, if you might take us to the president's report.
Certainly. Thank you, Trustee Martin. We've already talked about the search for John Taylor, and in my report, I mentioned that we'll be looking for a longer term search, unfortunately for a provost as well. Thank you, Jonathan. But I will miss you. We'll recognize you next month. But you may have seen a notice that Cassie Kent will be the interim provost, and we are working on issues to take care of a new associate vice president. And really the timing for this is I would love to go fast, but as it was mentioned before once, working with faculty over the summer is difficult to do. And so we would end up, based on the timing of the search, having it over the summer. And so we're going to slow it down a little bit. We're going to do an institutional review if we want to reorganize some things before we actually put out a new advertisement with a new job description. And the intent is to start the interview process sometime shortly after with candidates. It'll depend on two things: how far we get before school gets out, or having the interview process with the screening and getting to the candidates right when school gets started in the fall, where we have the faculty back and we have everyone available. I wrote about 3 strategic initiatives. Jeff, you stole my thunder, but I gave you the first one about the cannabis and how the county is interested, and we are working on that. We have a strategic visioning meeting that's not going to every other week, and the 3 things we've been focusing on in terms of nudging some things forward are the cannabis in the greenhouse. Also, you've heard about this, starting up our first major partnership with a local company with an apprenticeship and a certificate program with the Lake House, and we're waiting, and I'm going to be getting with the county administrator this week about whether or not that they're going to approve the $175,000 we asked for, that they can use out of their ARP funds to fund the startup of that program, to have a high quality program for students and to provide for the workforce. And then third, thanks to the efforts from John and Adam, if you've heard this before, we've been working on it on Banner, which to replace our Aleutian Colleague, which is our ERP program, our Enterprise Resource Program. We need to go to Banner, but it's going to be expensive. And one of the ways that we're looking into that is to bond that in the future. But John and Adam have been doing some great work. I don't know, John, if you want to say anything about that, because there's lots of technical details, but go ahead.
Well, just to bring everybody up to date, in 2018, I put together a pro forma looking at costs to migrate to Banner. And I did that with the help of SUNY, with incentives that were available at the time, and also directly working with Aleutian. And since then, many things have changed. The incentives have gone away with SUNY. However, there may be more, and I've just recently reached out to the SUNY CIO and asked again to see what they may have available. But we're also working with an external company called Moran Technology Consultants, and they've worked with, I think it's over 100 colleges moving from one ERP to another ERP. So they have extensive experience in what it takes to do a migration. And we're working on that now. I hope to have a newly updated pro forma here in the next month or so, and it's coming along very well.
Thanks, John. I also want to let the board know in the next day or so, we'll get you some form letters for budget advocacy and the things that we think are important, which are going back to 2019 floor funding for the college, which would be beneficial to the college. Also, the childcare in terms of not just for facilities, but for actual operational expenses. The part-time tuition assistance program for part-time students, and not most importantly, but you brought this was raised your attention today. We lost a lot of our number of students that we had in the past out of the high school equivalency program, or GED program, that Carol mentioned. We need our legislators to go to the State Department of Education and bring the State Department of Education into the 21st century. If we could do what we did over the past 2 years, then why do we have to go back to face-to-face for GEDs? It does not make sense that they have to go to a physical location to do this. So you'll get that either tomorrow or the next day. And then 2 other things briefly, or 3. First off, I gave a slide. You'll want to take a look at it. It's a pictorial of a new physical structure that will be part of CMAC come this spring. That's already in construction, for a VIP tent that is a seasonal tent for 180 days. The tent will go down, but the physical structure will remain. It will not be that obtrusive from what I've been told, but just wanted to give you a heads up. You can envision what that'll look like in the future. Two things beyond that real quickly. I would like to let you know that it's really great to have a grant writer with us now because that we mentioned last time. We received a $250,000 grant from SUNY for our nursing program to help pay for faculty based on the initiatives the governor came out with. Really excited for that, proud of the work that was done. She made it look easy and we're looking for more. And then finally, Steve, I don't know if you want to talk about plans that we believe we're going to go in person for April. And we're looking at potentially the stage 14 for that meeting and just have a full in-person meeting. Do you want to comment that at all? And that's the end of my report.
So go right ahead, Dr. Nye, maybe expand upon that a little bit. We've been looking at a number of facilities on campus, and we feel that the distancing and the setup of stage 14 is appropriate. And I know others have been looked at, but that is the recommendation.
And basically what the intent would be is we go back to our regular in-person meetings because you've got more space. As you know, we have relaxed mask standards. We're relaxing the requirements for minimum numbers or smaller numbers. Basically, and if you watched the president's address last night, we are not mine of the United States. We are going back to trying to move back towards normal. But I think that the board members just need to be prepared if that's where we want to go. We're ready to do that. And stage 14, John, I don't even believe we may not need to worry about the hybrid aspect because if it's an in-person location, we're just looking for the best location to have an in-person location.
Well, and to that point, we will need to be sensitive to those that do want that hybrid opportunity and will want an opportunity for WebEx. So we'll want to continue to pursue that. I've already heard from some trustees. We'll want to be respectful for those that still may want a mask as well. So as employers are doing that, as organizations and companies as well. But we will be providing an in-person opportunity. But we certainly do want to go down the hybrid route there, at least for this particular meeting, and until the trustees and others are comfortable. Other questions or comments with regard to that? Already heard from some leadership. So again, this is our thought process right now. Other questions of Dr. Nye and his presentation?
No, good.
Okay, folks. Thank you all. We'll move right to the liaison and committee reports and start with our student trustee. Trustee Partial, take it away.
Hi, everyone. So
Hello.
this month's report is pretty long. We had a lot of events in February and March. We're working on a lot of them. Let's see. So in February, we had a What's Next table about transfer and career transitions. Students could get a free professional headshot to put in their portfolio on a green screen
Nice.
for free. And then there was also College Spirit Day, where faculty and professors were encouraged to wear their alma mater from their universities that they graduated from, so that students could ask questions about transfer and such. And then currently right now is Multicultural Week. It started out with a mental health talk by Abraham Scully, and then a diversity discussion on cultural appropriation. Today they had a genealogy workshop, and then tomorrow's a movie night. And then on Friday, we have a special guest speaker coming to the Warrior Series event. March is also Women's History Month, so there's going to be a poster campaign in the Student Center. They're bringing in real historic documents from the Ontario County Historical Society, so that'll be really exciting. And there's also going to be a t-shirt giveaway. And the last thing for right now is Jenny Earl did want me to mention that the student leadership is aware of the College of Middle State self-study, and they do have access to the document. So, and I think that's it for now.
Thank you. Terrific. Questions of Trustee Sophie? And thank you for the written report. It was very thorough and gave us an opportunity to reflect, as well as all the exciting events. Boy, certainly the publicity around those has been outstanding. So anything that you and others had something to do with, we thank you for that. But appreciate your report and appreciate your representing the students so finely.
Thank you.
Trustee Assels, would you take away the audit and ERM committee and maybe an update for us?
Sure. We had a meeting with the folks from Bonadeo. I know Steve was there, I was there, Dr. and I was there, Adam. And we went over some of the more detailed questions that Bonadeo had for us. I think they've been answered satisfactorily, and we anticipate that the audit will be complete and we should have ability to see the results at the next meeting.
Thank you, Jeff. Other questions? All righty, moving on to board development. Trustees Mihalik and Abraham, if you might give us an update.
I can say a few words, Donna. A couple of action items from our retreat still need to be discussed with the team. So we hope to meet in the next couple of weeks to put a meeting together with the committee to review those action items that came out of the retreat and also discuss the next policy that we want to review.
Okay. Thank you. Trustee Mihalik, anything else to add?
I'd just like to say thank you to the board for the discussion at the retreat and for your input. It's very helpful.
Terrific. Okay, thank you both. The association, Trustee Hamlin. Trustee Hamlin, I think you're on mute.
Yes, I forgot. Is leading a in-depth search for the replacement for Stephanie, which is the main focus. I don't think there was anything else. Was there, Carol, that came out of the last meeting?
Nothing of significance. The search is the major focus right now.
Right. And we have some good candidates. So this timetable is the end of April.
Okay. Questions of Trustee Hamlin? Thank you, Barb. Moving to the foundation, Trustee Geis.
We had a meeting last week. Obviously, Vintner and Valentine did sell out, so we're very pleased about this. And Louis, maybe you would like to report on the fact that the foundation continues to have record-breaking fundraising.
Yeah, I thank you, Trustee Geis. In fact, we just literally yesterday, I think it was yesterday, the day before, Steve puts out a report on all sectors in SUNY for their fundraising, and it was really exciting to see FLCC in the top quarter of our cohort. We had, and I think later on in the year we'll show that to you. But it was exciting for all of us to see that and see us aspirate where I think we should be aspirating. And we're about 22% of where we were last year right now, so ahead. So that's a good sign. And I will add one more thing about V&V, just to entice everyone. I did hear about the live auction items today for the first time, and it's really exciting. There's going to be really some really lovely packages that I think will interest all comers.
All right.
Thank you.
We can't wait. Anything else, Trustee Geis? Thank you,
No,
Louis.
that's it. Thank you.
Okay. NYCCT, Trustee Mihalik.
Just a quick note that the annual Board of Directors meeting will be held on Saturday, April 9th. You should all be receiving a notice about it. It is virtual, and anyone is welcome to stop in virtually at any point during the morning. There is an invitation out to the governor, and we may be calling on Steve to support that request to the governor to speak to us. And I know the issues surrounding advocacy will be high on the list, but there will also be other professional development issues. So I do encourage anyone who's interested to at least stop in. The link would be coming, I believe you would receive an email announcing it. You click on that to RSVP and a link will be sent to you.
Terrific. Is that a morning, all day, half day type of commitment?
The last meeting that I was at, it was planned for just the morning from approximately 9 to about 12:30 or 1.
Okay, thank you. Questions of Donna?
No, go for it.
Thank you for that report. We appreciate it. Student Corp, Trustee Cushman.
My report is in the, well, it's not in the packet. It was sent a little bit late, but it was sent to everybody. But just to summarize, I think what just a reflection on the Student Corp, their involvement is so reflective of everything we talk about. So if you look at the events, that's diversity, equity and inclusion. It's there's pathways. They have an event, for instance, on that's very career focused. So it really kind of aligns with the pathways process, and a lot of the things they're doing all respond to student stresses. A lot of the things that Jonathan covered in his presentation. So I just I want to say it's there's something going on that's right if everybody's talking about the same stuff.
Okay, yeah.
So
Okay.
that's all, Chairman Martin.
Well stated. Questions of George? Thank you for that report. Any other announcements from the trustees? Any? President Nye?
No.
No. Okay. We'll transition to an executive session, and if you would indulge me for a moment. Our next is an executive session to discuss matters regarding collective negotiations pursuant to Article 14 of the Civil Service Law, New York Public Officers Law, Article 7, Section 105, letter E as in Edward. Please, a motion and then a second to enter executive session. For those publicly listening in, we will be coming back to a public portion after we conclude executive session. So please, a motion and a second to enter executive.
I so move.
Thank you, Barb.
Second. This is
Thank
Joan.
you,
I
Joan.
second.
All in favor, signal by
Aye.
saying aye.
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 Great. We'll see everyone on the next link. Thanks very much.
Hey, come on.
I see 7. We're waiting for 2 more, Barb and Donna. There's Barb, there's Donna. Okay. We have all the trustees here. Any other business to bring in front of this meeting as of March 2nd, on March 2nd, excuse me? Hearing none, please a motion and then a second to adjourn the full meeting of March 2nd. A motion, please.
Steve,
This is
this is
Jeff.
Joan. I move we adjourn.
Thank you, Joan, in a second.
I'll second it. It's Jeff.
Thank you, Jeff. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstentions. Thank you all. Have a
Very
pleasant
good.
evening.
Good
Remain
meeting.
well. Take
Bye
care.
all.
Good
Bye-bye.
night.
Good night.
So Rick, are we all set?
We are. Hang on 1 second. I want to make sure that there we are. Close the other stream out and we are done. You want me to